What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Luminary Grand here. Today we're going to be going over My Hero Academia chapter 369. In the previous chapter, we got to see Deku's final quirk, Gear Shift, which is the second user of One for All's quirk. And we got to see exactly how strong Deku has become. In the new chapter, we start off with All for One having a flashback to his time with the second user of One for All, saying, "How could this be? Your meta ability was supposed to only work on small objects. It was supposed to be nothing more than a glorified pea shooter." As in the next panel, we see the results of Deku's attack, knocking All for One into the ground. All for One then looks up and says, "How can I see them?" as he sees the vestige of his brother and the second user of One for All. And then we get an explanation from the second user of One for All about Gear Shift, saying, much like the other meta abilities, Gear Shift's strength has grown alongside One for All. Its scope has broadened, allowing it to be applied to more diverse targets and down to the cellular level. Then there's the pure simple might buildup of One for All. It says a fist imbued with these two overlapping powers can warp the very laws of physics. So that's pretty interesting. I don't know what that means, but as a continuation from Deku's last smash, he then shoots himself towards All for One, hitting him with a quintuple Detroit smash. So apparently when they say the two abilities can warp the laws of reality, apparently that means like Deku can attack someone multiple times within a fraction of a second. Like his speed has gotten increased so much to where basically Deku can attack without being seen. As All for One hits the ground, he tries to attack Deku, and Deku then charges right back at him. All for One says perhaps he's too fast to see, but based on the trajectory of his last hit, I can predict in time where the next one's coming from. And then he swings, but he misses. Deku then stops right in his tracks, and it says low gear. The second user then explains that Gear Shift adjusts his speed without abiding by the laws of inertia. So apparently Gear Shift basically can just hit the brakes whenever it wants. Okay. And it says you should have known that, One for All. And One for All tried to take another swing at Deku, but then Deku activates the quirk of the sixth user of One for All, Smokescreen, and in danger sense. So that way, even though he can't see One for All inside the smokescreen, he can still figure out his location. Then, as Deku knows his location, he shoots out of the smokescreen, wrapping Black Whip around One for All and pulling up in the air using flow. And as he's using an incredible combination of his quirks right now. So apparently, just to backtrack, Deku stopped himself in his tracks, activated Smokescreen, used danger sense to figure out exactly where All for One was, and then he activates a combination of Float, Black Whip, and Fajin to pull All for One out of the smokescreen up to him in the sky and deliver another overdrive Detroit smash right into All for One's chest. And this is all off of a whiff, which is crazy. That's really interesting for Deku to do. So he pulls All for One into the air as he's preparing another Detroit smash, and we get to see this really incredible panel of Deku and all the users of All for One coming together to perform this next hit. And we hear the second user say that our meta abilities were never something you should have been worried about. Rather, you should have feared the reason of why someone chose to use their gifts. The true power resides within the individual's intent. As he then strikes Shigaraki, All for One, Deku then says, "This time I'm giving it everything I got. All for One, you don't get to hurt anyone anymore." As he punches All for One in the stomach, literally blowing chunks of his body off. So this is incredible, because apparently Deku stored up enough energy from the quintuple Detroit smash to recharge Fajin and make it to where he has another reality warping strike to basically just destroy Shigaraki All for One. And he's looking bad, like really, really bad. Like he has fingers flying off of his body. His face is bloody and bruised, and he's falling out of the sky. The vest of his brother then says, "We're resonating. One for all and all for one, and all for one with one for all. He then says Mirio was right. The melding between One for All, Shigaraki, and Tomura isn't as solid as it seemed. The second Yuta says, here comes your moment, boy. Don't forget what Shimura said. You can't take it easy just yet. Giving everything you got, you said. And the business about quirks. Can't take it easy just yet. So apparently we're still on the clock with Deku, being that he's using all these quirks at the same time. His body seems like it's gonna run out of energy. So the reason behind that, though, that I'm getting from this is the reason Deku can only use 5 minutes worth of the second user's quirk is because the ability is applied down to the cellular level. So I would put this in the same regard as, like, say, like a speedster in DC the Flash. He has to eat a lot of calories because his speed allows his body to burn through all those calories. And I think in this same regard, Deku's ability Gear Shift is allowing him to burn through his resources on the molecular level, which is why Deku is going to pass out at some point in time because he can't fully handle this ability. As All For One is flying to the ground, he thinks to himself, given everything you got, you say, and the business about quirks, surely you jest. I haven't used any of my quirks yet. All For One then, as he's falling to the ground, says, I haven't even got to use any of my quirks yet. I've yet to brandish the true value of this body. He says not yet. The entire chain of events up to now will inevitably spell out victory or defeat for all. Victory is still within my grasp, as we see All For One going through some kind of change. It looks like he's just freaking out, but it looks like his body may be repairing itself as we see what looks to be like 9 stars appearing behind him. I don't know exactly what that means. Maybe some hidden quirks, but if Eraserhead is still like targeting him, there's nothing he can do. But on the final panel, we then see a picture of Spinner and his new giant form, and apparently Spinner is going to be All For One's trump card. I don't exactly know how that's going to work, but I know that All For One, well, since he has people in different units, All For One does plan to use Spinner. I believe he said he's going to use Spinner to try to get Kurogiri. So apparently in the next chapter, we're going to be moving on to see what's going on with Kurogiri and Spinner. And maybe Spinner will be able to get Kurogiri out so that way he can use his warp quirk to free All For One from the UA Fortress. I'm not really sure. I don't expect that to happen, but you have to remember there are 3 separate battles going on right now. There's Shigaraki All For One versus Deku, and then All For One versus Endeavor and Hawks. Plus, we have Spinner and the heteromorphic army going towards Kurogiri. So, very interested to see. Apparently, we're gonna be done with the Deku versus All For One fight right now. And in the next chapter, we're going to be moving over to see exactly what Spinner is doing to get towards Kurogiri. But overall, this chapter has to be one of the most exciting looking chapters I've seen. I love how we're just seeing Deku have a relentless battle with All For One, hitting him with attack after attack and using all of his quirks in unison, which is very interesting. Deku being the smart character that he is, he's definitely figuring out how to use all of his abilities to his advantage, and All For One can't handle what's going on. So it really does seem like unless Spinner succeeds at his mission, All For One could lose this battle. He's just getting mauled by Deku. So within that 5-minute span, it looks like Deku could actually win, but I don't expect him to, because there's still so much that has to happen in this war. Plus, All For One is correct. He did not get to use any of his quirks yet, and I don't think that they're going to finish this war without him using any of his quirks. But that will be the end of this chapter. You guys let me know what you think about this chapter. Did you also like how in-depth the artwork was? Also, tell me what you think about how Deku used his quirks. I like the way he used them. I just wish there was more offensive capability rather than just being super fast. But I mean, if you're basically warping reality because of your movement-based quirks and this is the power amplification of All For One, I really can't can't complain about that. Like, Deku's working All For One right now, so I can't complain about it. I can want more, but Deku's doing what needs to be done. So yeah, you guys let me know what you think about this chapter. Hit me up down in the comments and let me know what you think about what's going on with All For One and how he's hasn't been able to use any of his quirks. Do you think he's going to be able to? Do you think this fight is unfair? Because me personally, after everything that we saw, I don't think it's unfair. I think he deserves this because he just gets a power up after everything the heroes do, no matter what. And now that Deku's on the scene, he wants to complain. So, you know, I don't know. That's like him being a punk to me, but it is what it is. So yeah, you guys let me know in the comments what you think about this chapter. It's gonna be Luminary Grand signing off, and I'll catch you guys later. Peace.